Tim Allen never hated anyone more than this one co-star, and the revelation might surprise you. The beloved sitcom star who built his career making audiences laugh has harbored some intense feelings towards someone he worked closely with for years. Behind his jovial on-screen persona and trademark grunt, Tim Allen's relationship with this particular co-star deteriorated into something far from friendly. Who could have earned such strong negative emotions from Tim Allen? The answer lies in a light-hated history of perceived betrayal, misunderstandings, and career decisions that left Allen feeling genuinely hurt. Let's uncover the truth about Tim Allen and the co-star he reportedly couldn't stand. Famous friendships. The world of Hollywood is filled with famous friendships, but not every on-screen partnership translates to real-life camaraderie. Tim Allen has worked with countless actors throughout his impressive career spanning over 3 decades in entertainment, from his breakout role as Tim the Toolman Taylor on Home Improvement to voicing the iconic Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story franchise. Allen has shared the screen with some of the industry's biggest names. Many of these professional relationships blossomed into genuine friendships that have stood the test of time. Tom Hanks's Toy Story counterpart has spoken highly of Allen on numerous occasions, with the two maintaining a warm relationship despite their limited time recording together for the animated films. Nancy Travis, who starred alongside Allen for 9 seasons on Last Man Standing, developed into one of his strongest on-set bonds. Their chemistry was evident to viewers, and they shared a mutual respect behind the scenes, making filming enjoyable for both. Allen once described their relationship as a perfect marriage without sex, borrowing a line from Patricia Richardson, his Home Improvement wife. This comfortable dynamic allowed them to play off each other, naturally create the believable family dynamic that helped Last Man Standing succeed for nearly a decade. Even Richard Kay, who played Old Borland on Home Improvement, maintained a friendship with Allen long after the show ended. The two reunited for the History Channel series Assembly Required, demonstrating that their connection had evolved beyond their sitcom days. These positive relationships show that Allen can form lasting bonds with his colleagues, making his intense dislike for one particular co-star all the more intriguing. Early career tensions. Before Tim Allen became a household name, he paid his dues in the competitive world of stand-up comedy. His journey wasn't always smooth, and transitioning from comedy clubs to television brought challenges. When Home Improvement launched in 1991, Allen was thrust into the spotlight with a cast that included relative unknowns and child actors. As the show star, Allen was responsible for its success, creating natural pressure that occasionally manifested in intense moments. Patricia Richardson, who played his wife, Jill Taylor, experienced some of these tensions firsthand while their on-screen relationship appeared seamless. Richardson later revealed that behind the scenes they occasionally butted heads over creative differences. Tim was very passionate about the show, she said in an interview. Sometimes that passion came across as intensity that could be difficult to work with. Despite these moments, Richardson maintained that she and Allen shared mutual respect even when they disagreed. The early seasons of Home Improvement also saw Allen adjusting to the demands of television production. Long hours and the pressure of delivering consistent performances created an environment where frustrations could easily boil over. Some crew members from this era have noted that Allen could be particularly demanding when perfecting scenes. One former staff writer recalled Tim knew what was funny and what wasn't. If something didn't work, he'd let you know immediately. This direct approach didn't always sit well with everyone involved in the production. As Home Improvement grew in popularity, so did Allen's influence over the show. With success came more control, and Allen began to take ownership of the series in ways that sometimes created friction with the writing staff and fellow actors. While many respected his comedic instincts, others found his growing authority difficult to navigate. These early tensions, however, were merely a prelude to the relationship that would eventually become Allen's most strained professional partnership. Rising star problems, with Home Improvement becoming one of ABC's biggest hits in the 1990s. The cast experienced fame that changed their daily lives. For Tim Allen, this meant transitioning from stand-up comedian to television star virtually overnight. The show's success opened doors to film opportunities, including The Santa Claus and Toy Story, further cementing his status in Hollywood. But this meteoric rise wasn't without complication, particularly when managing relationships with co-stars whose careers were also taking off. The young actors who played Alan's sons on Home Improvement: Zachary, Ty Briang, Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Taran Noah Smith quickly developed their fan bases. Thomas in particular became a teen heartthrob, appearing on the cover of countless magazines and receiving thousands of fan letters weekly as their popularity grew, balancing the demands of a hit show with their burgeoning careers created scheduling conflicts and shifting priorities that Alan sometimes struggled to understand. Alan, who had worked for years to achieve success, occasionally expressed frustration with what he perceived as a lack of appreciation from some of the younger cast members. "I came up the hard way," he reportedly told a crew member. "These kids don't know how lucky they are." This generational disconnect became more pronounced as the show progressed, particularly with one young co-star whose ambitions extended beyond Home Improvement. The dynamic on set began to shift as certain cast members started receiving offers for other projects, movie roles, voice acting opportunities, and other television appearances created scheduling challenges for Home Improvement producers. While Alan remained firmly committed to the show that had launched him to stardom, he noticed that not everyone shared his singular focus. This divergence in professional priorities laid the groundwork for what would eventually become his most contentious co-star relationship. Behind-the-scenes drama: the seemingly perfect family portrayed on Home Improvement masked growing tensions behind the scenes as the show entered its later seasons. The strain between certain cast members became increasingly difficult to hide. Crew members occasionally witnessed heated discussions after the cameras stopped rolling, and the once harmonious set developed undercurrents of tension that affected the working environment. Tim Allen set the tone for many of these interactions as the Joe star. His perfectionist tendencies meant that scenes were often reshot multiple times until he was satisfied, leading to long days that tested everyone's patience. One episode director noted Tim knew exactly how he wanted a joke to land. If it didn't work the first time, we'd keep going until it did. While this approach resulted in quality television, it created an intense working atmosphere that not everyone appreciated. The writer's room also experienced the effects of these dynamics as Alan gained more creative control. He began rejecting storylines and dialogue that didn't align with his vision for the show. This caused friction with the writing staff, some of whom felt their creative input was being dismissed. There were days when entire scripts would be overhauled because Tim wasn't happy with them. A former writer recalled it could be demoralizing after putting so much work into something. The relationships between the actors playing the Taylor family also grew complicated as the show progressed. While they portrayed a tight-knit family on screen, the reality behind the scenes was more complex. Patricia Richardson later revealed that maintaining the appearance of familial harmony sometimes required professional acting both on and off camera. "We were like any family. We had good and bad days," she explained. "Some days we all got along great, and other days we just did our jobs and went home." As Home Improvement continued its success run, these behind-the-scenes tensions remained largely hidden from the public. Fans saw only the finished product, a polished sitcom about a loving family navigating life's challenges with humor. The reality, however, included professional disagreements, creative differences, and one relationship that would eventually deteriorate beyond repair. Co-stars speaking out years after Home Improvement ended. Several of Tim Allen's former co-stars began sharing their experiences working with him. These accounts painted a complex picture of a talented performer who could be generous and demanding depending on the circumstances. Patricia Richardson, who spent 8 seasons as Alan's on-screen wife, has offered perhaps the most balanced perspective. "Tim and I had great chemistry, but we also had our moments," she said in a 2020 interview. His intense about his work, which made the show better even if it sometimes made the set tense. Richardson also addressed the significant pay gap between herself and Alan, revealing that she left before the planned 9th season partly due to compensation concerns. Despite these issues, she has consistently defended Alan's character, stating, "Tim made me laugh every day. He had his issues like anyone, but was never inappropriate with me." This nuanced view suggests that while Alan wasn't always easy to work with, the relationship remained fundamentally respectful. More recently, actress Casey Wilson shared a starkly different experience from her brief time working with Alan on The Santa Clauses. Wilson described the interaction on her podcast as the single worst experience I've ever had with a co-star. She recounted Alan complaining to producers about her stepping on his lines during a scene and claimed he was dismissive and rude. Throughout their time together when he was done he was so rude they never made eye contact and never said anything. It was so uncomfortable, Wilson stated, adding that Alan behaved as if she were the help rather than a fellow performer. Richard Kay, who played Old Borland for the entire Home Improvement run, has generally spoken positively about his experience with Alan. Their continued professional relationship suggests a genuine friendship, though Kay acknowledged that Alan's direct communication style could sometimes rub people wrong. Tim always let you know where you stood, Kay said in a 2021 interview. Not everyone responds well to that kind of honesty, but I always appreciated knowing exactly what he thought. Notably absent from many of these public discussions was Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who played middle son Randy Taylor. His reluctance to speak about his time on Home Improvement after leaving the show only fueled speculation about his relationship with Alan, while other child actors from the series occasionally reminisced about their experiences. Thomas maintained an unusual silence regarding his former TV father. Growing tensions as Home Improvement progressed through its middle season, subtle signs of strain appeared in the relationship between Tim Allen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Initially, the two seemed to share a mentor-protege bond, with Allen taking a fatherly interest in Thomas's development as an actor. Early interviews showed genuine affection between them, with Allen often praising Thomas's natural talent and professionalism despite his young age. He's like a little adult, Allen told Entertainment Weekly in 1993. Sometimes I forget he's just a kid, because he's so good at what he does. The dynamic shifted around the 5th season, as Thomas's popularity soared. His face appeared on magazine covers and posters in teenage bedrooms across America, and film offers started pouring in. While continuing to fulfill his Home Improvement obligations, Thomas took on voice work as young Simba in Disney's The Lion King and starred in films like Tom and Huck and Man of the House. During production hiatuses, Allen reportedly began to feel that Thomas's growing success was affecting his commitment to the show. Production sources noted that scheduling became increasingly difficult as Thomas balanced his various projects. There were days when Jonathan would come to set directly from another job, clearly exhausted. One crew member later revealed Tim didn't always have patience for that, especially if it affected scene rehearsals. By the 7th season, the tension had become noticeable to everyone on set. By the 7th season, the tension had become noticeable to everyone on set. In press interviews, Allen's comments about Thomas subtly changed in tone, focusing more on the young actor's ambition than his talent. When asked about Thomas's busy schedule, in a 1997 interview, Allen remarked, "The kid's going to burn himself out before he's 20, adding, I just hope he remembers where he got his start." This passive-aggressive comment hinted at growing resentment that would soon explode into something more serious. The breaking point came when Thomas approached producers about reducing his role in the E8th season to focus on his education. Allen, who had built his career on the success of Home Improvement, reportedly took this as a personal affront. The once-war relationship between the TV father and son had deteriorated into something decidedly cooler, setting the stage for the final breach that would cement their status as Allen's most strained professional relationship. The breaking point, the Home Improvement season, marked a definitive turning point in the relationship between Tim Allen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas. After 7 years of playing Randy Taylor, Thomas left the show entirely, choosing instead to focus on his education. In September 1998, as the final season began airing, Thomas's absence was explained through a storyline that sent his character to Costa Rica for an environmental study program. What should have been a respectful parting of ways quickly became more contentious. Allen didn't hide his disappointment with Thomas's departure. In interviews promoting the final season, he made points about loyalty and commitment that were widely interpreted as criticisms of his former co-star. It's a shame when someone who's been part of a family decides to walk away, Allen told TV Guide. Then when pressed about Thomas's educational pursuits, Allen's response was skeptical. "School is important, but so is honoring your commitments." The situation worsened when Thomas appeared in the 1998 film